And this year they went 6-6. They struggled into a bowl game, but they blew out their last opponent in order to get there. I say NC State is going to win this game because they played a lot better teams, a lot tougher teams. They beat East Carolina when East Carolina was hot. They have had, that was a rivalry game too, so I think that North Carolina is going to come in pumped. They got something to prove. They feel like they got shellacked out by the ACC bowl selection folks. We also have the Alamo Bowl. The Alamo Bowl is going to have Maryland and Nevada. Now this is where I'm going to pick an upset. I think Nevada is going to beat Maryland. I know all you guys have it picked, but I think that this is also somewhat of an upset because Maryland's played a lot tougher teams than Nevada has. But Nevada also gave the biggest fight that Boise State had all year. They came within 7 points of them, and they gave Boise State all they had. And Missouri versus Northwestern, here's a question I have. Why is Missouri, the team that won the Big 12 North, ranked lower than Northwestern? They've got something to prove. They're going to beat the living crap out of Northwestern this year. I think that's going to be no contest.
Yeah, wow. I think we certainly hope so, but we all agree on that one, as you saw from our fancy dancy helmets.
And I almost jumped ship. I almost picked Northwestern.
Yeah.
Northwestern
has a strong defense. It's not completely improbable.
And they can score points. They can score points if they need to. So I mean, it could have been, but I mean, I gave it to Missouri. I mean, come on,
we all still picked Missouri.
Chase Daniel, so it's a better game than it looks.
Yeah, well, all right. Well, let's go through some of these. First, I mean, the PapaJohns.com, Charlie made a good point. I mean, North Carolina State definitely played a tougher schedule, but Rutgers, on a 6-game winning streak, they lost 5 of their first 6. I mean, to come back from that's really remarkable. I give Ciano big ups. But also in that game, are you going to miss Chuck Amato's sunglasses? I miss Chuck Amato's sunglasses. That's about the only thing I know about.
He's at Florida State now, huh?
Right? Is he back at Florida State?
Yeah, he's assistant coach.
Oh, all right. Well, there you go.
Can't get any other thing.
All right. Well, let's talk about 2 of these more interesting matchups. I mean, we think that Mizzou's foregone conclusion there. In the Alamo and Independence, Louisiana Tech, and Northern Illinois. That's one of the ones.
That's ridiculous. That shouldn't even be a bowl game.
Definitely.
That's ridiculous.
That's what you say.
Who wants to see that?
Northern Illinois almost knocked off Tennessee, though, at home at Neyland Stadium, which is interesting.
Who's Tennessee?
Yeah,
all right, it was bound here for Tennessee. All right, anyway, let's start with the Emerald Bowl. Cal and Miami, Florida. Chris, who do you see coming out on top in this game?
I took Miami on this one because I look right at the trenches, as I always do when it comes down to the game of football. And, Cal's offensive line's been banged up. They're not going to have the guys they had at the start of the season there come this game. And Miami's defensive line, I mean, yes, they're young, but these guys are good. I mean, in a couple years, you're going to be talking about that Miami defense like we were at the start of this decade when they were always the best in the country.
I'm looking at this game, and I took Cal. They have the second coming of Marshawn Lynch and Javid Best. I don't know how to say his first name.
Javid Best. Pretty good back, 1,300-yard back.
He's a great back. And, I mean,
lit up Michigan State.
He did. And, I mean, they have some weaknesses on their line, with the injuries that you spoke of, but I still think that this guy is going to pull it through for them. Miami has struggled as of late, haven't been on too great a streak there, and I'll take Cal.
Yeah, that's a big thing for me, not to give away my tips or hints, my expertness. But
he actually has a picks hotline in case any of you guys were wondering.
Cal's won its last 2 games, and Miami Florida's lost its last 2.
Yeah, but then there's a month in between there, So
all right. Well,
true.
Have a couple good Gary Danielson and say momentum doesn't exist, but I think it does. All right, let's move on to the Humanitarian Bowl. I made a mistake and called it the Blue Field Bowl by accident on that graphic. I apologize profusely to the residents of Boise, Idaho. Maryland coming into this game. Maryland and Nevada. I mean, this is an interesting matchup. Whack against an East Coast team. Chris,
and a good Nevada team, too.
A good Nevada team with that pistol offense and the 3 backs behind the quarterback and the shotgun. It's wild.
Colin Kaepernick, I mean, just a sophomore there, quarterback, but I mean, the guy does it all for Nevada, and he's very tough. But the thing for me, Nevada, they don't play any defense out there. I mean, they don't. You look at how many points they've given up, and I think that's going to be the difference. If Maryland can just run the ball, Darryl Scott all day, and bring some of that defense that they show in the Under Armour commercials, I think they'll be fine.
I almost picked Nevada in this game just because the running game is stellar. Maryland has shown a lot of inconsistencies throughout the year, and I did pick Maryland, however. The bigger conference, better competition. They're going to take it out.
All right. Well, let's move on now to bowl grouping number 4 with Scott Wagner. But first, we're going to take a look back at one of the best, if not the best moment in bowl history. One of the best. Take a look.
The ruling on the field has been reversed. While the ball was loose during a backward pass, a member of the coaching staff of Texas touched the ball. By rule, this is an unsportsmanlike act.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, and of course, there it is, Chris Jesse, the stepson of Mac Brown, Scott. I remember watching this game with you, actually. And is that your favorite bowl moment of all time? Of all time? Ever?
Favorite bowl moment? No. Weirdest one? It's gotta be, because it's just so funny. You got a stepson of Mac Brown. You want to think, is he really deserving of even being there? And then that must have been an interesting dinner conversation. That's all I had to say about that. But what? All right, I'll move on to the bowls. Though. We have the Music City Bowl, Sun Bowl, Armed Forces Bowl, Holiday Bowl, Texas Bowl, AtLeastKnow.com's in there. I'll start with the Music City Bowl. We have Boston College playing against Vanderbilt. An interesting game. We have Boston College 9-4. They won the Atlantic Division of the ACC, but they got beaten pretty badly in the ACC title game. They lost 30-12 to Va Tech. They lost their quarterbacks for the year, which has been a big problem, and they're playing with inexperienced backup. Dominique Davis only completed 39% of his passes for 2 interceptions against Virginia Tech. That could be an issue. And then you look at Vanderbilt, the early season darling. They had that wonderful appearance on College Game Day. The Geeks will inherit the turf. Well, they're not doing so hot recently. They've lost 6 of their past 7. They're 6-6 overall. Complete discontinuity at quarterback. They've started 3 different quarterbacks this year. Or rather, they've played significantly 3 different quarterbacks this year. They've started 2. And they've really struggled scoring. They've only scored 20 points in their losses this year. So I like Boston College to win this game, even though it's being played in Tennessee, of course, where Vanderbilt is from. I still like BC in that game. Move on to the Sun Bowl. Interesting game because these are 2 teams who had real big BCS implications. Oregon State barely lost to their chance when they lost to Oregon. And Pitt also, if they would have beaten Cincinnati a couple weeks ago, they would be playing in a BCS title game. But alas, both of them are not. You look at Oregon State, 2 brothers, Jacquizz Rodgers and James Rodgers, 2 great threats in the backfield, or James plays on the wing sometimes. But even so, they're very good. They have bad losses to Stanford, and then they got destroyed by Penn State. But they've also, obviously, they beat USC, the biggest win of the year. And they barely lost to Utah, who is in a BCS Bowl now. So which team will show up, that'll be interesting. And then Pitt, you have LaShawn McCoy, a great running back. He'll be a big difference in this game. But they're untested. Their best wins are against West Virginia, and Notre Dame. So overall, because of that, I like Oregon State in this game. And then you move on to the Armed Forces Bowl, a rematch of a previous game earlier on in the year. Our Air Force beat Houston 31-28 on September 13th. Our Air Force with a famous wing tee that averaged 270 rush yards, 80 pass yards a game. So you won't get to see the ball air too much out when Air Force has the ball, but don't be intimidated because you have Houston with Keenum, 414 pass yards a game, 43 touchdowns. This team scores a lot of points. They dropped 70 points on Tulsa and they averaged 41. It's going to be a high-scoring game, but as any Texas fan will tell you, whoever has already won a regular season game against the other is obviously a better team, so I'm going to go with Air Force in that one. Holiday Bowl, another very interesting matchup. Oklahoma State 9-3 against Oregon 9-3. Oklahoma State, 3 losses. Texas Tech, Texas, Oklahoma, obviously great teams. You have Zach Robinson, Des Bryant, a great connection. And they're a very balanced team, too. They average 256 rush yards, 233 passing yards. Oregon runs the ball very well, and they're a very explosive running team. But I like Okie State. They're just a much better team overall. And then finally, the Texas Bowl, Rice against Western Michigan. Rice, another team who likes to throw the ball and likes to score a lot of points. Western Michigan can score some points, too, and they only have 3 losses on the year to Nebraska, Central Michigan, and Ball State. All bowling teams, so it'll be interesting to see that. But Rice is a big milestone for them. They don't play very many bowls. It's in Texas, and I have to admit, I'm a son of 2 Central Michigan alums, so I just can't pick Western Michigan in this game. It's Michigan-Ohio State type. So I'm going to pick Rice in this bowl game.
Well, hey, come on, the Texas Bowl, Scott. You need to have a little bit more insightful analysis than that. No, I'm just messing with you. Another one of these bowls.
It is a good matchup. I mean, Tim Hiller,
Western's
quarterback.
not a bad team.
Tim Hiller for Western against Chase Clement, 2 of the best passing guys in college football this year.
Call me an elitist then, right? Hey. All right, well, let's talk about two of them in particular, all right? Let's start with the Armed Forces, the rematch of Air Force and Navy, one of only 2 this year. Let's talk about this game. Or excuse me, of Air Force and Navy, of Air Force and Houston, rather.
I don't get this, guys. I was looking up, and you didn't see my picks, but I saw that you guys both picked Air Force. And, Air Force won that game back in the regular season. And, we were talking about Navy and Wake Forest. You guys said, you got to give it to Wake Forest. They lost. You know what? I'm taking Houston in this game, all right? They're going to win this game because it's a rematch and because they got a great coach in Kevin Sumlin. And, they led the nation in total